is a grief inside you that no relationship has ever fully touched. A quiet, aching hunger that no hand, no kiss, no whispered promise has ever truly satisfied. You call it loneliness. You call it longing. But beneath every heartbreak, every love story that slipped through your fingers, something deeper was happening. You were being called, not toward another person, but toward yourself. Carl Gustav Jung, one of the most brilliant and courageous minds in the history of psychology, taught that the human soul carries memories older than memory itself. He believed that every wound we suffer, every longing that breaks us open, is a secret summons from the forgotten parts of our being. Through his groundbreaking work on the unconscious, the shadow, projection, and the process of individuation, Jung gave us more than theories. He gave us a roadmap back to ourselves. And if you stay with me until the end of this journey, you will not only understand why the love you've been searching for in others was never about them, you will awaken to the deeper truth that every heartbreak was a secret invitation to remember your own soul. And you will finally see that you were never broken. You were only buried. Have you ever noticed how love feels less like discovery and more like remembering? A bittersweet déjà vu that brushes against your soul, whispering of something you were born knowing but somehow abandoned along the way. Carl Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But behind every transformation, every kiss, every tear, lies a deeper alchemy. Each encounter is not random. Each lover, each heartbreak, each impossible goodbye is a breadcrumb left by your unconscious, guiding you back to yourself. You wander from face to face, searching eyes like ancient maps, convinced that the next soul you touch will finally quiet the ache. But the ache is not for another's arms. The ache is for your own forgotten truth. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so, you call it fate when they leave. You call it fate when they betray you. You call it fate when you fall to your knees, wondering why love keeps slipping through your fingers like smoke. But what if none of it was cruel? What if every heartbreak was a sacred conspiracy? What if the ache you call loneliness was really your soul, banging on the walls of your own forgetting? You were not abandoned. You were being awakened. Because you do not suffer because you loved wrongly. You suffer because you forgot that love was never meant to save you. It was meant to break you open, to reveal the forgotten rooms inside you where the real work, the real remembering must begin. Carl Jung told us, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And there comes a moment when the dreaming ends, when the longing outward collapses, and you are left, finally, trembling at the doorstep of your own heart. This is the real beginning. The love you seek has been waiting for you, patiently, painfully, within the sacred silence of your own soul. Before we go deeper, if this part of the journey already stirred something deep inside you, if you recognize this aching call in your own life, make sure to subscribe, comment, and stay with me. Because the real unveiling is only just beginning. The next step will take us into even more haunting territory. What if the people who shattered your heart were never there to love you, but to reflect you? In the next part, we step into the terrifying beauty of Jung's revelation. Relationships as sacred mirrors. Stay with me. You have been taught to believe that love is about finding the right person, that if you choose carefully enough, love will save you, complete you, redeem your loneliness. But Carl Jung taught a more terrifying and liberating truth. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your relationships are not random. They are reflections. They are mirrors held up by the unconscious to reveal the parts of yourself you have forgotten, rejected, or refused to love. Each time your heart breaks, each time you feel abandoned, betrayed, unseen, it is not just because of what they did. It is because they touched a wound inside you that already existed long before they arrived. You think you are falling in love with another, but you are falling in love with the parts of yourself you have projected onto them. You think you are being betrayed by another, but you are confronting the places where you have betrayed yourself. Jung warned us, projection is one of the commonest psychic phenomena. It is the root of almost all conflicts between individuals. When you idolize someone, you are seeing the greatness in yourself that you have not yet owned. When you despise someone, you are seeing the darkness in yourself that you have disowned. Every lover who captivated you, every person who devastated you, was a mirror, not to punish you, but to awaken you. Your soul is relentless in its mission. It will keep sending you mirrors until you no longer chase them, until you finally turn inward and meet the reflection you have always been running from, your true self. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And fate will feel cruel until you realize it was never working against you. It was conspiring to free you. You are not unlucky in love. You are unawakened to the sacred mirror that love holds up. A mirror not of who you think you are, but of who you must become. When someone leaves you, betrays you, wounds you, pause. Instead of asking, why did they do this to me? Ask, what part of me have I abandoned that allowed this wound to find me? This is not self-blame. This is self-liberation. Relationships are not meant to save you. They are meant to reveal you. Jung saw the journey not as the search for a perfect partner, but as the path of individuation, the becoming of your whole self. Individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Thus, love was never meant to complete you. It was meant to confront you, to strip away illusion after illusion until only truth remains. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every soul that touched you and left you, they were not obstacles. They were catalysts. They were mirrors. They came to burn the false self away, so that your real self, the one you abandoned long ago, could rise from the ashes. This is the sacred violence of awakening. It will not coddle you. It will not comfort your illusions. It will tear you open so that you might finally see. And when you do, when you face the sacred mirror without flinching, you will realize it was never about them. It was always about you. It was always about remembering what your soul has known all along. You were never broken, only buried. If this part resonates with you, if you feel the mirrors in your own life trembling inside your memory, pause with me. Comment below. What reflections have your relationships shown you? Subscribe to this journey because we are about to go even deeper. Because if love mirrors you, what happens when it forces you to confront the parts of yourself you fear the most? In the next part, we descend into Carl Jung's most haunting teaching, the confrontation with your shadow. Stay close. The real awakening is about to begin. You were not taught how to love your darkness. You were taught to hide it, to polish yourself into something acceptable, presentable, lovable, to exile every wild, wounded, or unruly part of you into the shadows. Carl Jung warned us of the cost. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And so, as you chased love, you unknowingly dragged your abandoned shadows behind you. You asked others to love only your light, while secretly begging them not to see the parts of you you could not bear to face. But love sees everything. Real love is a mirror too merciless to flatter. It reflects your wounds. It awakens your rage. It pulls your hidden fears to the surface like a rising tide. Because love, real love, is not here to confirm your illusions. It is here to dismantle them. You cannot truly love or be loved until you are willing to dance with your shadows, until you are willing to sit in the silence of your own fear, until you are willing to cradle the parts of you that tremble and rage and ache. Jung named this the individuation process, the sacred journey of reclaiming all the disowned parts of yourself, light and dark alike, into a unified whole. The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. You think heartbreak happens because love failed, but often heartbreak happens because your shadow was revealed, and you fled. When your jealousy surfaced, you called it their fault. When your fear of abandonment arose, you blamed them for leaving. When your rage boiled over, you shamed yourself, or them, or both. But what if every eruption, every rupture, was the soul's desperate attempt to bring you back to yourself? The parts of you you are most ashamed of, the ones you swear make you unlovable, are not barriers to love. They are the pathway. Your anger holds your boundaries. Your grief holds your tenderness. Your fear holds your intuition. Your jealousy holds your unspoken desires. You are not meant to exile these parts. You are meant to reclaim them. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, Jung wrote. Not the polished version, not the acceptable mask, but the raw, trembling, magnificent totality of your being. And it is only when you stand naked in your own darkness, unashamed, unhidden, that you will finally know real love. Because you will have nothing left to project, nothing left to protect, nothing left to defend, only truth. The one who can hold their own shadows tenderly no longer seeks salvation in another. They seek only connection, not to complete themselves, but to meet another soul from a place of wholeness. This is the sacred dance. It is not pretty. It is not easy. It will shatter everything you thought you knew about love. But when you stop running, when you take your shadows by the hand instead of shoving them away, you will finally come home. Not to someone else's love, but to your own. And from that place, love will no longer be a desperate hunger. It will be a holy offering. If you feel the stirrings of your own shadows while listening, don't turn away. Stay close. Comment below if you've felt your darkness surface through love. And make sure you subscribe now, because the deeper we go, the clearer your soul will become. The next step is the one most people fear: the sacred, terrifying silence. In the coming part, we will step into Carl Jung's greatest mystery, why solitude is not punishment, but initiation. Stay with me. The real alchemy is still unfolding. You think loneliness is your enemy, but Carl Jung would tell you, loneliness is your doorway. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. And what could be more important, more sacred, than the forgotten truth buried inside your own soul? You have been taught to seek salvation in connection, to believe that if you are loved enough, seen enough, wanted enough, the aching emptiness inside you will dissolve. But solitude teaches a different, wilder truth. No one else can save you from the distance you have placed between yourself and your own soul. The presence you hunger for is not someone else's. It is your own. When you run from solitude, you are not running from emptiness. You are running from the parts of yourself you have abandoned. You are running from the grief you buried, the dreams you dismissed, the shadows you exiled. Carl Jung spoke of the necessary descent into the unconscious, the night sea journey, a plunge into the depths of the self where treasures lie hidden beneath terror. Solitude is that descent. It is not a punishment, it is initiation. When you sit in the silence long enough, the noise of the world fades. And in that vast, terrifying quiet, something ancient stirs. The parts of you that were silenced by betrayal. The passions you gave up to fit in. The intuition you buried to be loved. They are still there waiting, not to punish you for forgetting them, but to guide you back. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, Jung wrote. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Solitude is where you awaken. It is where the dream of finding your salvation in others finally collapses and the true search begins. It is in solitude that you remember. You were never just lonely for a partner. You were lonely for yourself. You were lonely for the version of you that stayed soft when the world demanded hardness. You were lonely for the dreams you set on fire just to be accepted. You were lonely for the parts of you you told yourself were too much, too broken, too inconvenient to be loved. You do not fear solitude because you fear being alone. You fear solitude because you fear meeting who you truly are without the noise, the masks, the distractions. But solitude is the place where you stop running, where you finally sit with your grief, your rage, your hope, and you hold them, trembling, but without shame. And slowly, the terrifying silence becomes sacred. You realize you are not empty, You are spacious. You are not broken. You are vast. You are not waiting for someone else to come and choose you. You are standing in the ruins of all your old illusions and choosing yourself. This is not the end of your loneliness. It is the end of your abandonment. Because the love you were searching for in every hand, every kiss, every half-forgotten promise, it was always yours to give. And in solitude, you finally remember how. If these words feel like they are reaching into the forgotten chambers of your soul, don't lose this thread. Subscribe now and stay with me until the end. Comment below if solitude has been your hidden teacher too. Because the final step, the culmination of everything Jung tried to teach us, is ahead. In the next part, we rise from the ashes. You will remember the sacred purpose you came here to embody. This is the true homecoming. Stay close. There comes a moment when the search outside yourself exhausts you, when the endless reaching, the endless grasping collapses under its own weight. And in that wreckage, in that terrible stillness, you finally hear it, the voice of your own soul, whispering the truth you have always known. You were never meant to find your purpose in another's arms. You were meant to find it in the uncharted wilderness of yourself. Carl Jung taught that the goal of life is not happiness as the world defines it. It is individuation, the sacred, slow, painful journey toward becoming who you were born to be. Individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Not the self you constructed to survive, not the self you performed to be loved, but the self you buried, the one singing beneath all your suffering. Every heartbreak was not a detour, it was a summons. Every loneliness was not a punishment, it was a call. Every mirror, every shadow, every descent into solitude was not a failure. It was a map. Your soul has never stopped speaking to you. It has only been waiting for you to become still enough, brave enough, honest enough to listen. You are not lost. You are becoming. The grief you carry is sacred. The longing you feel is holy. The emptiness you fear is the womb of your rebirth. Your purpose is not something you find out there. It is something you awaken within. It is the voice that says, I was not born to be loved in fragments. I was not born to barter pieces of myself for the illusion of belonging. I was not born to remain asleep, dreaming through someone else's life. I was born to remember. I was born to awaken. I was born to burn away everything false until only the raw, sacred truth of who I am remains. And from that place, love is no longer a hunger. It is a gift. It is not something you chase. It is something you offer. So here you stand, at the threshold, not of another relationship, not of another distraction, but of your own becoming. The choice is yours. You can keep searching outward, waiting for someone else to complete the story for you, or you can turn inward, fiercely, courageously, and reclaim the sacred truth that was always yours. You are not searching for love. You are searching for the pieces of yourself you abandoned, and you are ready to come home. Carl Jung left us with this immortal truth. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, but it is also the most liberating, the most holy, the most necessary. Now it is your time. Choose yourself. Remember your soul. Answer the call that has been echoing inside you since the beginning of your life. Awaken, return, become. If you have stayed with me until now, if you feel your soul trembling awake, this is only the beginning of your true journey. Subscribe now to stay on this path of remembrance. Comment below what part of yourself you are reclaiming. Like and share this with someone whose soul you know is also waiting to be remembered. Because the world does not need more people searching for love. It needs more people who have remembered who they truly are. Your soul has waited long enough. Now come home.